earlier today, I had a long conversation with a woman that I haven't met in 4 months now. And she was supposed to move in with her partner this summer, and it didn't happen yet, she said. And we had a conversation about why and how his mood was not appealing to her, and the way he was irritated made her afraid and withdraw from the relationship. And I asked her, did you tell him that? And she said, no, I don't dare to, because if I tell him, I'm afraid that he will be more irritated with me. This is such an issue. I will talk more about this today. But welcome to 15 minutes with me, Beatrice. Everyone calls me B. And I'm a relationship coach. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. And I have been on a spiritual path for more than 17 years now, where relationship has been the prime way for me to grow on a soul level and spiritually. And in this podcast, I share with you my learnings, my findings, my thoughts, everything that I want to talk about with love, relationships, sex, spirituality, everything. So deeply welcome. But let's go back now to this, because this is so common and I used to be here. I was so afraid of being vulnerable. So I didn't even think it was anything for me. I remember one of my first tantric workshop I was in back in, I don't know, 16, 70 years ago. And the teacher said to me, it's like, what about being a little bit more vulnerable? The teacher said to me. And I was like, what? Vulnerability? No, that's for weak people. I'm not a weak person. And he just looked at me and laughed and said, so maybe you should try it. You maybe like it. And I remember going back to the area where we had lunch and talked with some of the other participants. It's like, I don't get it. And vulnerability, it feels so like drama, and it's just like weak people doing that. And it's not for me. And I didn't grasp what vulnerability was and how important it is for our relationship. I was like Pippi Longstocking. It's like, no, I can do it myself. I don't need anyone. And relationship needs vulnerability to work. That's like the glue in relationship. And what happened in this conversation, I so recognized myself in, and in other women that I coach and that are in my rooms and in my programs. No, I don't dare to tell him, because then maybe he gets upset or disappointed, or she gets mad or doesn't want me as a friend. But if you want to deepen the relationship, vulnerability is necessary. So let's go back to this conversation, because what she said was, I don't dare to tell him because he may get upset. And I think this is so important, because instead of leaning into the relationship, she is actually leaning out of the relationship while taking that decision. And it is a decision. I decide to not tell you how these behaviors is affecting me. Yeah, but what about him? He should stop being irritated, maybe you think. Yeah, maybe that's not a nice behavior to have in a relationship, to like leak your irritation to other people. But if no one really tells you how that affects you, this person doesn't know. So what we often do is that we give like comments like, yeah, you're always so irritated, or you in your mood, or we just shut up and withdraw from the relationship, and this person don't have a clue. No, it's not your work to enlighten this person, but if you want a relationship with this person, a relationship is built by your truth. Not you are this and this and that, but this, when you do this, it affects me like this, and that affects our relationship like this. And I really want to be in a relationship with you. So this woman had a problem with her partner's irritation, and they supposed to move in together, but she hesitates, but she doesn't really tell him why. So the way I said to her is like, yeah, but your practice, you are not the source of his irritation. Your practice is to practice vulnerability and honesty. And there is so many women hiding from this. And what I've seen during all my years of this practice is when you hide from your vulnerability, when you hide from your truth in relationship, it affects your whole life. It affects your intuition, your power, how you manifest, how you thrive in the world, because you are like putting a lid on yourself, like I can just be this big, or I can just fit into this little box in this relationship. That means that you are putting yourself in a box in other areas of your life too. So that is why I think relationship is the greatest and maybe the hardest spiritual practice of them all, because you get mirrored of what kind of behaviors do I still have that are separating me from love? What behaviors do I have that still separates me from love? All spiritual practices, all religion is about love. And where do we else learn about love if not in our close relationship, in friendship, with children, with parents, with our loved ones? That's where we practice love. That's like the purpose of the relationship. My purpose with my relationship since 12 years back is to have a spiritual practice with my partner, to practice love, to put love in the center. Yeah? So if you have people-pleasing tendency or over-giving tendencies or codependent tendency, whatever tendency or pattern you have, and we all have some kind of patterns that we bring into relationship. The thing is to find out, but if you have the tendency to be people-pleasing and over-giving, you may think that that is love. And one of my first mentors, she said to me, she was over 80 years old. She'd done this work for so long. She was so cool, a woman from LA. And she said to me, Beatrice, for something to be loving, it needs to be loving to you too. You cannot exclude yourself from the situation and think that it would be loving for everyone else if you don't speak up, if you don't rock the boat, if you are like constantly focusing on other people's needs and other people's mood. That is not love. That is manipulation. That is abandoning yourself, and that's not loving in any way. So for something to be truly loving, it needs to be loving for you too. And it's not loving if you are not telling a person how that person's behaviors affects you, because you start to feel irritated, frustrated, judgmental, maybe resentful. You start to separate yourself from this person instead of doing the practice and staying in relationship. No, you should not stay in relationships that are very harmful for you. No, you shouldn't be in a harmful relationship. That's not what I'm telling you here. I'm telling you that be here, do your practice. Maybe a boundary is the practice that you need to say, like, hey, I told you several times that this behavior is very harmful for me. It makes me afraid. It makes me sad. It drains my energy. If you still stay in relationship with that, that's maybe your practice then to put up a boundary. But if you are in a normal relationship and you don't dare to speak up, your practice is to speak up. Tell your truth. Tell how this behaviors affects you. That's the act of love. And every relationship is a practice of love. It's where we practice love. And all spiritual practice is actually the practice of love. And that's why I think the room of relationship is the best classroom for that. And that is how I look at my relationship with my partner, also with my friends. And she then asked me, like, yeah, but how do you do this? Do you always do this like perfectly? Of course not. I also have resistance. If I have carried these relationship patterns for my whole life up till like I started 10 years ago, of course I still feel resistant. Of course I often think like, yeah, but it's better to not just hang out with this person anymore because I don't want to like address this issue. And then I hear a little voice inside of me, this part of me that is wiser and more mature, and yeah, my highest self telling me like, hey, Bea, the universe, God, or whatever you call it, will keep sending you this lesson until you take it. Tell the truth. Tell how these behaviors affects you. And maybe you have to do it 1, 2, 3 times before you're done with a lesson, but you cannot run from your lesson. It will always come back to you, and often it comes back louder, bigger, harder. So what I learned is and what I also teach in my program, next level of love, is the game of this. The lesson comes, and when the lesson comes, if you don't say it, if you don't tell this person, this is how your behavior affects me, it will come back. It will come back. It will come back until you have done your lesson. And if I don't take it, the universe sends me a little harder lesson, and then a little harder, and then I go like, oh shit, should have taken the lesson early on, because otherwise it becomes chaos in my life somehow, maybe in other areas of my life, or not. It's like, what is the lesson that I need to learn here? I journal about it, I pray about it, I meditate about it, and then I need to be brave and take it. So, one thing you can do is to check yourself. Is this bringing more love to this relationship or less love? Do I go into separation or do I go into connection with this? Or do I just want to protect myself? If you want to practice this, check out my 6 months program, Next Level of Love, where I meet this group of women every second week, and we talk about it, we do the practice together, and we learn. So if you want to level up to the next level of love, check in my webpage and see what kind of lessons do you get from the universe today.